crack myself up. I still haven't found my first Blanton's. That's different. I really like that. They're like together, like peas and carrots. That's funny. Sometimes accidents are good things. Peychauds or Peychauds or Peychaud. This is not what I expected. So you're excited about Johnny Drum? I'm excited about Johnny Drum. I heard about Johnny Drum a while ago. I didn't even know what it was. Just somebody had talked about it on one of the online thingy things and said that it was really, really good. And I'm like, oh, okay, if it's that good, I got to get it. And I didn't even know it was a Willett product until I started doing my research for this particular series that I'm doing on Willett stuff. And it's like, oh, it's Willett. Well, perfect. I have a reason to drink it. Yay! So this was one that once I found out about it, I got really excited about it. And then I couldn't find it. Yeah, it's not available in the state of Ohio, as far as I know. I've never seen it anywhere. You got to go out of state to get it. And the first one that I ordered it offline because I found it. It's like, oh, I need to do that. And so normally a bottle is 750 milliliters. This one is 700 milliliters. And you can see this one has a foil cap that was just easy to open. This one has got one of those wax things that I freaking hate. So since I've got two of these, and since this bottle is so different, I'm not going to open this one. I don't imagine it's any different, but I decided I'm not going to open this one because I don't want the headache, first of all, and I don't want the mess, but also because it's unique and it's different. And so there you go. Yeah. So, yeah. And I don't know if that's like a British standard. I don't remember where I got it from. I don't remember if I got it from overseas or someplace domestic. I don't know. I don't remember. Been a long time ago since I bought that bottle. It's been a long time ago since I bought this bottle too. I found this one and another one at the same time on the shelves in another state, and I took two of them and said, "These are mine," and that was that. And it was part of a big day, if I remember correctly. I bought a lot of bourbon that day. But anyhow, we're going to delve into it. I thought I already opened it there. So none of the fumbling over things tonight. We're just going to get into it. All right. You know, it occurred to me that I hadn't talked about Willett Distillery very much, and I think I maybe oughta a little bit. So we're going to get into that tonight as we let this rest. I want this to rest a couple of minutes before I get into it. Mash bill undisclosed. I was looking into it. I can't find it. It's sourced. It's not Willett's own juice. Probably Heaven Hill. Most of the scuttlebutt online is that it's coming from Heaven Hill because they're neighbors. They're right next to each other pretty much. Right down the street or something like that. So why not get it from Heaven Hill? It could be MGP. That seems to be the go-to, but most people are saying it's probably Heaven Hill juice. That's fine. So far, we did the Noah's Mill, and we did the Rowan's Creek. It's around here somewhere. I must have put it somewhere. Oh, there it is. The ugliest label anywhere. Totally ugly. That's awful. So that was the last couple of weeks. We're going to continue today. Willett, if you look at their website, you see that Willett kind of got their start back in the 1600s, but they didn't really do anything with distilled liquors or anything way back then. It was just when people were born, like the beginning of the family tree. So we're going to start kind of where they got started. 1841, John David Willett was born. Let's see, in Nelson County, Kentucky, who was 1/3 owner and master distiller at Moore, Willett, and Franke Distillery. During his lifetime, John David was also the master distiller at 4 other distilleries in Kentucky. So that's 1841. Flash forward 42 years to 1883, Aloysius, I think that's his, Aloysius, Aloysius. Aloysius. That's a name that can just stay in the past. Because I can't say it. Aloysius Lambert Willett, went by Lambert, thankfully, was born September 23rd, 1883 in Bardstown. He was in the Kentucky bourbon business starting at age 15. Yes, that's the way it ought to be. No. He served at several distilleries across the Commonwealth in various capacities. In 1909, over 20 years later, 26 years later, Aloysius Lambert Thompson Willett, his son, he went by Thompson, thankfully. It was born on January 27, 1909 in Bardstown. He was the founder and president of what we now know as Willett Distillery in Bardstown. 1936, we're jumping up there almost 30 years, 27 years. In the spring of 1936, the family breaks ground on the distillery. Willett Distillery was erected on the family's farm 3 short years after the repeal of Prohibition. A year later, they actually stored their very first barrel of bourbon. Now let's jump way forward to the 1960s. Thompson Willett developed Johnny Drum exclusively for a wholesaler in California. So there is a story behind Johnny Drum, and it's on the label here. Handmade in the heart of the bluegrass, Kentucky's famous bourbon country. Actually, it's not on the label. But there is a story behind it. I'll read that to you. Today, according to the bottle's label, which isn't on the label, Johnny Drum served as a drummer boy in the year 1861 during the Confederate Civil War. He was on the Confederate side. In the end of the war, legend has it that Johnny returned home when Johnny comes marching home again. Hurrah, hurrah. I don't remember the rest of that, which you can thank me for that. Johnny returned home to his native Kentucky where he staked claim among a beautiful spring. Johnny learned the importance of finding a way to convert his excess corn crop into a profitable item rather than allowing it to go to waste. As the story goes, it wasn't long before Johnny's determination produced an exceptional bourbon whiskey. Now, today, Johnny Drum is bottled in 3 different forms. You can find the private stock. You can also find Johnny Drum Black Label and Green Label. It's all owned by Willett, bottled under the Johnny Drum Distilling Company, sourced. We don't know the mash bill. We don't know precisely, but again, Heaven Hill's what we're thinking. This is another one of those Willett products that at one time it used to carry a 15-year age statement. It doesn't anymore. Now there's no age statement on it, but that means it's been aged for at least 4 years. It is a straight Kentucky bourbon, which means 2 of those years means it has to have rested in barrels in Kentucky. All right, so real quick, let me go back to the photo real fast because this one it's what I've had in my head since I wanted to do this one. So a friend of mine has a drum set. He and I, gosh, we were in business together for, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. Then he went on to make movies and I went on to make videos, and we still get along and we still do things together, and we still make movies occasionally and talk and waste each other's time. Today I wasted my time at his house where he has his drum set set up, and he let me do that, and he even held the light for me. But I've had this image in my head ever since I first knew I was going to do Johnny Drum, and his drum set was just perfect. I was going to Photoshop out the area on that drum head that's been beat up, and I thought, you know what? I kind of like it the way it is, so I left it. But yeah, so he's a drummer, I was a drummer. You know, he doesn't drink bourbon, but I do. We can't all be perfect, can we? All right. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so I mean, there are some real similarities with Noah's Creek and Noah's Mill and Rowan's Creek. It's fruity and floral on the nose, but it's got a little bit of caramel, some honey in there. This reminds me a lot of the Rowan's Creek, but it's not as astringent as the Rowan's Creek. There is some astringency there. But boy, this is really similar to Rowan's last week. I mean, if I were to stick that into my nose, what'd I do with it? Right over here, right where it was last time. That's a little tough to get a good sniff out of it, but they're real similar. This one has a little bit more of a caramel scent to it, a little bit more honey in it. And just like the Rowan's Creek, as I get into it and as I let it sit and move it and sniff it, It does tend to lose some of the floral and fruity qualities that I at first got, and now it's getting into more typical bourbon notes. Still that little bit of astringency there. Ooh, little tobacco in there. Just a slight bit of leather. Very similar to Rowan. All right, let's go. That's got a fantastic mouthfeel. That's even better than the Rowan. 101 proof. So the Rowan's was 100, I don't know, 0.5 or something like that, was it? 100.1, which is just strange. And then the Noah, they make it hard to find it on these things. 114.3. So this is the hottest of them. This is 101. So a little hotter than Rowan. All right, let me see what I can pull out. All right, so Jordan says howdy. Howdy, Jordan. Kevin's watching, and Kevin said that he remembered this being a kind of a big into the butterscotch. Aaron's watching. Hey, Aaron. Hey, hey. All right. We got some peoples watching, which is always good. Kevin had said that he thought it was kind of butterscotchy. I'm not going to go there. I don't think so. Butterscotch to me is really sweet. And there are some bourbons that I've had that have really nice butterscotch notes. This is not one of them. Definitely a darker caramel. Caramel, if you have a degree. Some honey. Those tobacco notes, a little bit of leather. Very, very similar to Rowan's Creek. Matter of fact, I gotta know. I gotta know. I gotta know. I don't know if it's actually a song, but it sounded fun. I Need to Know is a song. I think it's... No. This is much sweeter. Rowan's Creek is much sweeter, but it's been open for a week. Caramel's just leapt out of me, and there's something else that's doing it too. Something's just jumping. It's those floral notes. They're more sedate than they were. This is my glass for later, for my ice. Needed a palate cleanser anyway. I'm going to come back to this and see if I can tell you where they're different. Because they're different. Just slightly. This one has more of the leather and tobacco notes than the Rowan's Creek does. The Rowan's Creek is a little bit more floral, a little bit more fruity, just slightly. It's going to be a weird thing to say, but there's something about the Johnny Drum that is just a warmer pour, and it has nothing to do with proof. It's like putting on a heavier blanket. It's really, I don't know how else to describe it. It just feels warmer to my palate than the Rowan does. The Rowan is lighter, fruitier. This one has got a lot of those typical bourbon notes, but it also has the tobacco and the leather, and it is quite tasty. And the mouthfeel is very nice, very silky, a lot better than the Rowan's Creek and the Noah's Mill. The mouthfeel on this is really, really nice. I don't know if it's unfiltered. Let me look real quick. I have a feeling it might be. La, 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 la. This says, this is our private stock, the proudest achievement in the art of bourbon making. Okay. It does not say that it is either filtered or non-filtered. It's probably filtered, but it doesn't have the mouthfeel of it. It's a lot silkier, a lot more buttery than the other two. Really nice bourbon notes. Really, it's not going to be as sweet as other bourbons. Like if you're used to the Buffalo Trace product, Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Stag. There's a sweetness to those that kind of exemplifies what a bourbon is supposed to taste like. That is not this, but this has got some beautiful notes outside the sweetness. Really, really nice. One more. I could have put a hurting on this bottle. This is tasty. Not as nuanced and full of flavor as the Noah's Mill. And I mean, if you were to stack the Noah's Mill, the Rowan's Creek, and the Johnny Drum together, you'd almost say that there's like a journey from here to here, with this one being the one in the middle. This could be the older brother, this could be the middle brother, and this could be the younger brother. Although I think it's backwards. I think that one's probably the older and this is the younger. But it's almost an evolution from the Noah's Mill all the way to Johnny Drum. Okay, so let's do a little water. And see what that does. The water did some nice things for Rowan's Creek last week. All right. I will tell you what we're doing next week. I forgot to bring the bottle over again, so I'll just tell you. I'll actually have to look it up on my database. I keep a database of what I'm going to drink when I'm going to drink it. Helps me be organized in something that was not supposed to be organized. All right, so Johnny Drum on a little bit of water. That mouthfeel just got so nice and buttery. Oh my gosh. That's really quite good. Yeah. That's really quite good. I'm still not getting the sweetness out of it that some of the others said that they got out of it. That isn't really presenting itself. Although, if you look at the caramels and the honeys, those are going to be some sweetness. But then it's set off by those tobacco and leather notes. And let's call it sweet tobacco, right? I mean, tobacco is known for having a note. And it's not a sweet note, but this one is just on the sweeter side of it. So I don't know how else to describe it. All right. A little bit of that fruit came back out in that one. Some plum. That's really good. This is really good. I'm going to have trouble staying out of this one, I'll tell you. Yummy. This is really tasty. I think I even like it better on water. I know that's not a normal thing, but I think this time I actually like it better on water. That mouthfeel got more viscous. The flavors popped, a little bit of that fruit forwardness, just a little bit. Just enough to give it something that's different. Pop it on water opened up really, really nicely. Gosh, that's good. All right. Gorgeous ice sphere. Gorgeous ice sphere. Gorgeous ice sphere. I ought to have a theme song for my gorgeous ice sphere. Get Sir Patrick Stewart to say, gorgeous ice sphere. Engage. All right. There we go. I'm putting a hit on this bottle, I'll tell you what. And I don't mind, it's pretty good. Of the three, I think I like this one the best so far. And we still got some Willett journey to go through here, but I do think I like this one the best so far. Excuse me, goodness gracious. Ladies, please excuse a hog. All right. Jordan. Newbie question here. What is the difference between the dropper of water and the ice sphere? Ah, okay. So this is a clear ice sphere. The clear ice and the fact that it's a sphere means it's going to melt a little slower. So it's not going to dilute the drink that much. And it's less surface area than if you dropped in a whole bunch of ice cubes. So if you think of an ice cube, and the surface area it has. Now let's add in 8 more ice cubes, or 9 more ice cubes, all the same size. That's a lot of surface area that the bourbon is going to touch. That is going to degrade that ice a lot faster. It's going to start to dilute. I use the ice spheres because they don't dilute as quickly, but they do cool it down. So I don't want it to be diluted when I put ice on it. I want to know what it tastes like cold, because cold ice spheres, ice cubes, mute the flavor of the bourbon that you're drinking. When it's neat, I'm going to be able to pull out some flavors in that room temperature that I'm not going to be able to pull out on ice. Now, will I like it on ice? That's sometimes the test to see if I even like it that way. But ice sometimes is a precursor of knowing whether or not you're going to like it in a cocktail. But that's not always the case, because cocktails have a lot more stuff that go into it as well. But if it can hold up on ice, it'll generally hold up in a cocktail with other ingredients. One example of one that didn't hold up was Blade and Bow. Blade and Bow, when I put that on ice, it fell apart. It fell apart. It will not stand up in a cocktail because it won't stand up just on ice. Now, with that being said, I want to take a sip of this before it gets too diluted. Okay, it does kind of lose a little bit on ice. Again, you're muting those flavors. I'm still getting flavors. This would be nice in a perchance a fruity or sometime a cocktail if you wanted to do that, but you won't taste the bourbon in it. You need something that's going to be more robust. We were talking about the Noah's being something that you could use in a substitute for gin because it's so floral that it might be, if you like have, I don't know, what is it, the 75, I can't think of the name of it all of a sudden, but something 75, try this in it instead of gin. This will not fall apart in a cocktail. It'll taste really, really good, and because of its floral notes, it'd be good against like a gin, like a French 75 is what it's called. Then this one I think will hold up well in a cocktail as well because it held up well on ice. This one I would just do in a normal cocktail. Johnny Drum, I'm not going to tell you the same thing. The Johnny Drum did not hold up on ice as well. Still got some nice flavor, but a lot of it went away. The sweetness came out. The sweet side of it, the fruit, the sweet honeys came out. And some vanilla, which I hadn't said before, that came out. Very well. Interesting to put. Well, let me also... Hey, Quinn, how are you? I'm glad you're here. Pot still is the worst. Tastes like mellow corn. You're funny. So water, on the other hand, if I had to give you a primer on this, I would say that ice closes the bourbon down. Water opens the bourbon up. So when it's neat, think of it a little bit like it's concentrated, right? So when something is concentrated in flavor, it may be tough to pull out all of the different notes that the barrel is giving the bourbon or the rye or whatever. When you add water to it, you're not diluting it because you're not adding that much. You're just giving it a splash. I normally add between a half a milliliter and a milliliter. And just that splash is enough to allow it to open up and to give you a better sense of what those different flavors are. So if I let this thing sit 6 months after I've opened it, it'll likely have very similar flavors to what it just had when I put water on it. Because the time, the air in the bottle, the oxygen in the bottle that I've just put in, all that stuff will open it up over time. Water just happens to open up a little bit faster, and it does change the mouthfeel. Sometimes it makes it a little more viscous, other times it doesn't. Jonathan's watching. Hey, sir. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming. We're explaining why you put water in it, what the difference is between that and ice. And that's why I do these tests. That's why I start it off neat, and then I try it with water, and then I try it with ice. Because they're all different ways to express that bourbon differently. If you want to cool it down, ice. If you want to dilute it a little bit, water. Not a lot. And if you want to do both, you let the ice melt a little bit, or you use cubes instead of an ice sphere like I did. But the best thing to do, for me, is to let the bottle sit and come back in a month. See what happens to it. See how it's changed. A great example of this, when I tell everybody about this one, is the Weller Antique 107. I know, that's the holy grail of bourbons these days, for whatever reason. Out of the bottle, out of a fresh crack, I am not a fan of Weller 107. What they call OWA. Old Weller Antique. I don't love it fresh crack. But if I let it sit a month, I like it a lot better than it. You open it up, you pour a little out. It's not going to change proof or anything like that. It's just going to change in the bottle. That oxygen that gets to it is going to open it up once you've opened the bottle and poured a little out. Sometimes they call it a neck pour. I'm not 100% a believer in the neck pour, but boy, it's got a lot of evidence that it's real. There's been a lot of things that I've opened up and then a month later come back to it and it's completely changed. Another one of those is the Old Elk, the sherry cask. I didn't like that one when I first opened it. Came back a month later, 6 weeks later, changed completely. Really good. Still not as good as the rum cask, but it's really good. So that's the difference between ice and water. Water will open it up now, especially on a fresh crack. Now, adding water a month from now may not have the same effect. It may be deleterious compared to doing it tonight because it may mellow it out too much. I mellowed it out enough tonight to get the flavors out of it. I do it in a month, I don't know what will happen. I may not like it, except it may still improve the mouthfeel because I did really like that aspect of adding water to this. Ice, not a fan. I will try it again because I let it sit a little bit while I was explaining it. Plus, I want more. I want to give it a fair shake. There's some I liked over ice better. There's some I don't like on ice at all. And this one may be one I don't like on ice at all. We'll see. And Jordan, the other thing I'd tell you is just to try it for yourself. You know, I don't know what type of bourbon you like. If you're into the high proof stuff, okay, great, that's fine. If you're not, if you like the lower proof stuff, then I'd find yourself a nice 90 proof or maybe 95, 98, 99 proof, something like that, so that you can test these out. And if you don't like the higher proofs, then you're not going to like to do this at all because you won't want to drink it neat. If you do that, let me know and I'll walk you through it. But here I am talking, and this is going to get all mellowed out again. All right. Yeah, I'm going to stick to what I said. It's better than it, since I didn't let it sit for long. But when you put it on ice, it's because you want it cold. And when it was cold, it lost a lot of its character. So I wouldn't put Johnny Drum on ice unless you really have to have your whiskey cold. It's just not holding up. All right, so next week, I didn't bring it over here again. Last week I forgot to bring over the Johnny Drum. This week I forgot to bring over the one we're doing next week, and that is Pure Kentucky. I've heard good things about Pure Kentucky. It's another Willett product. It's the fourth in our series of, I think, six, maybe 7, something like that. So anyway, Pure Kentucky is the one we're going to be trying out next week. It's one, again, I purchased a long time ago, and I haven't opened it up because at the time I was trying to see how many bottles I could get before I ran out of stuff I wanted to drink. And I hadn't really gotten started real heavy on the Bourbcast yet, but now I've got to get into my stock and start opening stuff up because I'm running out of stuff. So, but I do still have things scheduled through probably June of 2024. So I've got some stuff. I still got some bottles. We're going to be able to go for a while. We hit episode 200 in March of 2024. This is episode, by the way, this is episode 156. And if you're on YouTube, you're going to see that we've gotten past the 153 or 150 subscriber barrier, which is cool. I think we're at 155, I think I looked at today. So it's continuing to go up, and that's fun. Beautiful Bourbon's continuing to go up. More and more likes all the time, and I appreciate that. People are spreading the word and telling people about it, and that's what I ask you to do, is tell people about it. I don't ask for any money or anything like that. Although right now that'd be kind of nice, as a little bit of money would be nice, but I'm not going to do that. But I have a ball doing this, and I know that some of the people online really enjoy my banter and things. So, and the history lesson too. I had a guy contact me the other day. I actually applied to be a bartender, and the owner of the bar contacted me. He said that I was too professional to tend bar there. I don't know what that means, but he encouraged me to go ahead and get my executive bourbon steward status, that certification, and he encouraged me to maybe come over sometime and talk about doing some tastings, some flights, some storytelling, which I like to do. So maybe it'll turn into something gold. We'll see. All right, guys. Next week, Pure Kentucky, right here on Beautiful Bourbon. We'll be here at 7 o'clock next week on Thursday. I do appreciate you checking us out. And, whoa, Chris Bell, you're just at the end, Chris. I was just about to sign off, but I'm glad you're here. And it'll be Memorexed here in just a couple of minutes. You can go back and watch the whole thing. Johnny Drum was the dram of the day, and this is a winner. This is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Pure Kentucky next week on Beautiful Bourbon, and we will see you then.